Hi, today's interview is with Kenji Hiranabe. Kenji talked about how Linda Rising fearlessly joined a local conference shortly after the Fukushima disaster, and how that visit was a big inspiration for many locals. He also talks about the link he sees between linear algebra and data science, and how doing things together is the best way to convey ideas. I'm Yves Hanul from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you like today's interview, don't forget to click it. Hello, everyone, and welcome here. And today I'm here with Kenji. And here is, I'm going to bring immediately a little bit up. This is here in Belgium, where I am, and Kenji is in Japan. And if I'm correct, Kenji, you're in Fukuji or something like that?
Yes, you're right.
So that's
Yes,
more or
actually,
less
uh,
where you are.
yeah, but I'm living in Ono City, which is a little bit east to the mountainside.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, yeah, it's more or
yeah,
less.
around there, but a very rural place I live in.
Yeah, well, the goal of
Yeah,
bringing this in
yeah.
was showing a little bit on where we are, and just to make it clear what these remote conversations mean. It's just past midnight on my side, and Kenji, what time is it on your side at this moment?
7 in the morning. I just woke up.
So this is what we do to do these kind of conversations. I will go to bed after this conversation, and Kenji just woke up, so we try to make it work. And Kenji, just before we jump into all of these questions, say a little bit to the people who are here. What you want people to know about you? Who are you, basically?
Ah, my name is Kenji Hiranabe. I live in Japan. And I have been in this Agile movement after I read a book called Extreme Programming by Ken Beck. And I visited first ever Agile conference at uh, on 2004, I believe. And from that time, I live in Japan, but I travel alone and sometimes did my talks. And I started up a Agile Japan, which is a Japanese community of Agile. It was on 2009, and I still doing programming, and I have a company called AWA System Management, ESM Inc., which is in my hometown, and I work with clients and people to do a agile development. In Japan, people are divided into two. I mean, the people who are doing business and who are doing programming. So I wanted to combine them together
Combine
to
them.
make it, yeah, to make new world. Still trying.
I'm surprised you said 2009 because I thought I met you in 2007 at the Agile Alliance conference, and I thought you brought a lot of friends from Japan. Maybe it
Ah,
was not yet an official Agile movement at that moment in Japan, but I
yeah,
thought you brought
yeah,
some friends. Is that
yeah, correct. I think that was 2007 or 8, Toronto maybe, where I got a award, maybe Golden Pask Award, or a strange name award, and I brought 10 or dozen people from Japan, and that drove the movement in Japan. So you're right, correct.
okay? Yeah, I was in Toronto in 2008, and I was in the at least in 2007 so there as well. So I'm not sure which ones were met over.
Yeah,
Well, met
right.
is maybe a big word because I'm not sure how much we talked, but I do remember your name from that moment, and I do indeed remember the past cohort with all the confusion and all the discussions that there were at the time. There was a lot of
Yeah,
both
I
good and
actually
bad things that were said.
I actually sang on the stage with people dancing.
Yes, that's the one thing I remember. Yes, and I remember also you practicing in the hallways for the singing, or at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
doing something.
That
So
was
that's
Dear XP song we made.
yes, that was it was a first remembrance. Not really much with Agile, but at the same time much with Agile. So okay, let's jump into that first question. What is something that you people usually don't know about you, but is has really had an influence on you?
mm, Maybe you of course know Mary Popandik, the
Hmm.
lean software development who wrote that book. She actually visited my hometown, and she is spent with us a day. And Tom is his husband, and went to a uh, famous temple, Eiheiji, the Sotoshu Temple in Japan, and we traveled a lot, and still we are good friends. Is that something you would like me? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, it depends
Hmm.
if it's really has an influence on you. But I do
Yeah.
remember reading lots of things that both Mary and you wrote about meeting, and
Mm.
I think you brought Mary into Toyota or something.
Oh, yeah. So I did. I did. Actually, the first conference, Agile Japan 2009, she was a keynoter there. So she influenced me a lot. Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely
Mm.
is indeed an answer
Yeah.
that is well worth, and
And
it shows at the same time how much our community is linked, because like you say, you started that movement, but you brought in the people from
mhm,
many,
mhm.
and you brought that experience
Yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing is that at the first conference, Mary talked about Agile, and I asked Toyota people to talk about Agile. So cross
Mm.
talk. That was interesting too. Oh, I
Yeah,
forgot.
because go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, and Linda Rising also came to Japan just after the big earthquake of Fukushima.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, maybe 1 or 2 months, and Sendai, the place where the tsunami hit, we connected by the internet over the internet, and we had some conversation with them. But they were uh, at that time, the town was disastrous, but we did Agile conference, also Agile Japan 2011, I believe. I'm not sure, but Mary came to Japan and talked about her um, fearless change to the people to Fukushima. Yeah, that was touching moment.
I can imagine, because
Mm.
definitely that I think the world could be devastating for these people after. Yeah, I've never been to, I've never had such an experience, but I can imagine that it's this is really devastating. So having then someone talk about, okay, how can you look at it and try to get something positive out of it,
Mm.
and try to learn from it, that and Linda has that effect on people. I would put it like this.
Yes,
Definitely,
yes.
she's a big
Yeah,
influence on a lot of
actually
us.
she had been stopped by a lot of people around her, but she said if Kenji says it's fine, she would I will go. She said that and came. I was so yeah, I mean grateful for her fearless visit.
It's a nice way to indeed to show people like what is fearless is, because indeed in the Western world I can imagine that a lot of people would say, oh, don't go there, it's too
Right,
dangerous.
right.
But um Well, a tsunami, especially at that moment when the tsunami is over, there is no danger. Okay, there was some danger about, I think, about everything nuclear that's
Yeah,
happening around
yeah,
there.
nuclear and
Uh,
aftershock. Yeah.
so that I can imagine that people are feared about, but still, yeah, if you think that it's
Mm,
safe, it's nice to then do this and from the people outside.
mm.
I want to move to that second question that it used to be what if you haven't been into IT, but I changed it if you have not been doing what you've been doing now. Do you have any idea what could have become of you?
Oh, I would like I wanted to be a teacher,
Mhm.
especially in mathematics.
Yeah, if I look at your Twitter, I don't always I follow you on Twitter, but
Mm.
of course most of it is in Japanese, so I don't understand many things. But you do tweet a lot about mathematics and
Yeah.
algebra and logic, I think, things like that. It's
Mm,
so
mm.
that's definitely even today stays a very big influence.
Yeah.
In
I'm
you.
still thinking about it. I mean, I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, I met a person, a professor at MIT, whose name is Gilbert Strang, who is a very, very passionate person, and he was on the web teaching in the class, 30
Mhm.
courses in a year or something like that, 30 classes in a course in a year like that. And it's an old video, but like 1990s or 80s. But his way of teaching is so passionate. So I was so drawn to him, and I watched over all the videos of linear algebra. But recently, I'm into AI or data science. So linear algebra is one of the most fundamental knowledge to the people um, in this area. And so I was so drawn to his passion. So I wrote a letter to him, I mean, an email to him,
Mhm.
and I actually made a t-shirts of him. I mean,
Mm.
there is a well-known picture of four linear subspaces, which is I don't know, mapped together by a rectangular matrix, vector to vector mapping, and there are four areas. But he wrote it in a big picture of linear algebra, and there is a picture in front of his book, mathematic book. So I took that drawing and made it a t-shirts and sent him.
Hey,
And
that's
he
very
sent
nice
me
of
back.
you.
And actually, I'm translating his new book now.
Wow. So that's much more than just listening in. It's really
Yeah.
spending again a lot of time and energy on these kind of things.
Yes.
That's so if I was asking about what you could have done, you're maybe not a teacher, but at the same time you're still involved in
Yeah.
linear algebra and being very passionate about it.
Yeah. About
Um,
teaching, education.
and well, and in teaching, I would assume that with what you do in the agile space is that you're teaching again also a lot of things to people.
Mm,
Not then in the mathematics world,
mm,
but more in the agile world. So it still is teaching to people. How do you see these two subjects differ in the way of teaching? I mean, do you see resemblance in when you teach these
mm.
things?
Yes, I think teaching something you love is the most important thing, and uh, talking to a people with that love is this almost the same thing. And I felt a big love from the professor Gilbert Strang. So, oh yeah, contents is much different. And mathematics is something you very logical side included a lot, but it has some. motivational intention in that. So delivering that string of motivations, how it's done, why it's done like that, or how you can express this thing, or maybe stories is the same thing, I think.
Okay, so even in the mathematics teaching, there are stories because it's
Yeah.
a world that, well, I started mathematics at university in the 90s, but I stopped before I finished. But yeah, so I didn't know that there were lots of stories. Actually, I would think that in my time, there were not many stories. And maybe if there would have been more stories, that would have been
Yeah.
drawn more to it. I still like
Actually,
mathematics and a lot of things, but
I
yeah,
did.
I miss sometimes.
Yeah,
I was
actually,
interrupting you, so go ahead.
yeah. His talk is a chalk talk on the
Hmm.
green blackboard. Oh, green blackboard? I don't know. Blackboard,
I
chalk talk,
understand.
chalk talk. And my teacher at my university time, he read some definition and then some theory and proof, then example, then theory, lemma, theory and proof, like that. But he was just writing actual numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, and he actually calculate on the blackboard. It's very
Mm.
intuitive and draw attentions. And yes, he sometimes use symbols like x and y, of course, in mathematics, but most of the time, symbol and numbers together. So it's kind of playing around on the blackboard. That was very yeah, interesting
But
style.
it's so in a sense he's talking out loud what he's
Yeah,
doing in his brain, he's putting on the
yeah,
blackboard. That's what I'm hearing.
yeah,
And
yes,
and
that's it.
that's very intuitive, and of course it's yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you try to understand much more than the other style of your other professor, I would say, which is
Yeah.
also much more what I was used to. So that
Mm-hmm.
that's it's amazing how a different style in teaching can give so much different energy on the students. I think it's we
You're
see
right.
that also in the agile world, of course. If you would
Mm-hmm.
just do ex cathedra and just talking, and we do a lot more exercises, we do a lot more other things just to have people experience things. Um, and I think, well, in mathematics, you have to, of
Yeah.
course, find different ways, but again, the teaching style makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
That's very nice.
doing things together is the best way to convey the idea, I think. So Agile is the same thing. He
So
actually
there is
stopped thinking in front of the blackboard and, oh, how am I get there, or something like that. He just think there with the people, with students.
okay, and he let them answer at that moment, or is that more his thinking and then continues himself, or how does
Yes,
that go?
continues himself, and somebody, yeah, yeah, teach him
Okay.
which was wrong on the blackboard, which part.
That's also nice. That's also
Mm.
nice. Okay, let's jump into that third question. What is for you, Kenji, your biggest challenge, and why is it a good thing for you,
Wow, difficult question. I live
especially
in
in the morning?
yes, I'm in Fukui Prefecture, which is a rural place, and
Mhm.
my clients, I mean, a lot of companies in Japan are in Tokyo area and Osaka and Nagoya area. Yeah, so we are far from there, and we have good engineers in Fukui. So I wanted to connect great engineers with great companies or customers, and to do agile development together in one place.
Mhm.
But so we are remote. I mean, before COVID, we are remote, but now it's remote is a not unusual. We are doing all the time. So now we are doing in the same internet world. But my challenge was how I can do one team development with customers in this place. Yeah.
Okay,
And
so you bring actually, so basically what you're saying is you have all these smart people in your
mm,
city, and you want to offer them opportunities to work together with people from different cities. That is,
right,
and convince these businesses on the other side that, hey, there are smart people here. Uh, because I can imagine that once you try to bring in remote work, you're in competition with the rest of the world. You're
right.
no longer in competition with local people, but then you're in competition with the rest of the world. But you have the advantages that you speak the same language, I assume.
Yes, of course. I mean, do you speak Japanese?
I don't. I don't.
I'm sorry, because Japanese is so different from other languages in the world. So,
Mhm.
Japanese business people talk in Japanese. Very few big companies talk in English. English is the primary language they specify sometimes. But in Japan, most of the people speak in Japanese, and business people always speak in Japanese. So, speaking in Japanese or understanding how they're thinking, they communicating in Japanese is a big difference. Actually, I have not seen any foreign programmer here in
I
Fukuoka.
can imagine. It's well, it's not just a different language; it's a different
Mm.
set of characters. So it makes it a lot harder if you want to do. How many? Do you have any idea how many people are speaking Japanese? How important is that language in the rest in the world? I have no idea. So I'm not sure if
Oh,
you have an idea.
meaning Japanese language speaking people?
Mm-hmm.
1億人だから、100万人、100万人、10 million, 10 million, the other one, 100
100
million.
million.
Yeah,
100
like
million
that.
people, which is
Mm,
still a very large amount of people that are speaking, which is
mm. Mm.
explains immediately why it's of course very well if that they want to focus on that language, because if you can work in your own language, it's of course always easier,
Yes, yes.
definitely.
And Japan is
Uh,
still relatively closed. I mean,
mhm.
not open to foreigners. We would like to, but we are in an island, Japan island,
Mhm.
isolated, surrounded by sea. So nowadays, a lot of foreign people came in, and we go abroad and business together, but still relatively closed. Market is we export and import a lot of things, a lot of money things, but we're still relatively closed than European people or than American people.
Yeah, that's it's and it's a culture that is not known for by many people.
Mm,
It's interesting if you see what well, for example, just what Toyota has done in their industry and how
mm,
influence they have. That at the same time, yeah, a lot of people still don't know Japan and Japanese culture. I assume that's like you say, it's rather closed in both directions. I would assume
mm,
because yeah, it's not just that I don't speak Japanese. Outside people who are living in Japan, I don't know many people. I don't think I even know someone who speaks
mm,
Japanese. So yeah, if in most other for most other languages, I would know some people who are try to learn it. To be honest, I don't know anyone that is learning Japanese that is not from Japan, for example. So that's kind of shows also your challenge in
oh
different ways.
yes, yes, sure. But interesting thing I would like to share is that we program in English.
Mm, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but
And do you have any
documentation is
idea where that comes from? Is that because the
yeah,
tools are better, or how
yeah,
does
yeah.
that work?
The code is different, Japanese and English. I mean, I'm not expert in that area, but a Unicode or Shift GIFs or standard GIFs or other encodings ways. And in 90s, it was so mixed up and we are very confused. So coding in English is the most safe way in that time. Now, some language, including Java, we can or Ruby, we can use Japanese language, but all those keywords, I mean, reserved words like if or while or begin and end, all those are English. So in order to make concepts in that language, we use English. So when project starts, the first thing we do is to make a Japanese English dictionary. I mean, the
Dictionary.
domain dictionary.
Wow. Okay, that's very interesting, and I've seen similar things in Belgium. So my
Mm,
mother tongue is Dutch, and I've known that some people try to program in Dutch, and we don't even have the Unicode problem. But even there, or
mm,
not that much. There's just a few characters that might not be
ah,
fully Unicode. But even then, I see that most languages are not really supporting it. And same thing
mm,
as what you said, all the keywords are, yeah. And I've known, what was it? I'm trying to think about some languages in the 90s that try to be translated with keywords, but it always got mixed
mm,
up. It got strange kind of bugs. And I think we kind
mm,
of came to
mm,
the same conclusion in Belgium that everybody's trying to program all the time in English.
mm,
But yeah, I didn't even think about Japanese because that's even harder, I would say. With
right.
well, if you have the different Unicode and everything that is there, so
Mm.
that
Do
makes
you
it
program
okay.
in Dutch? I mean, in Belgian or
No,
English?
no longer. And I have some. I had some
Ah,
friends who tried to do it in Dutch,
mm,
um, and actually there was one company where I worked. At some point, we programmed in Dutch, so everything. Well, the strange thing is, we were programming. What was it? I think it was back in Visual Basic or something. So we were
mm,
using the normal keywords, but our functions were all Dutch functions. And then they wanted to work with a company in Sri Lanka, and then they had to do something similar as you do. They had to create some kind of translation dictionary to
mm,
say, okay, this, because the management, for one completely stupid reason, decided that they were asking the people in Sri Lanka to also use function names in Dutch, which they didn't understand. So yeah,
right.
it totally didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I left after I heard about that decision because I thought it was so insane to ask people who don't speak the language to program. And yeah, that was and on
Yeah.
my last day out, the last thing I saw was code coming in from Sri Lanka, and I was just it was just impossible to read it and to understand it because okay, they had that dictionary, but they did very, very strange things.
Mm,
So yeah, it's usually better to ask people to stick to either their own language,
yeah.
or well, to a language that I would say everybody knows, like, or many
Mm,
people know,
mm,
like
mm.
English.
Yes,
I want
yes.
to go to that next question because it's something that for me it's always interesting. And if I well, the way I remember you and the way I look at you is that for me, you're a very driven and a very passionate person. And when you talk about the mathematics and the linear algebra, I already see that it's almost completely outside of your role or your job,
Mm,
I would say, but still you're very passionate. But do you know where that passion is coming from? Where that drive is coming from?
mm, mm. Um, um, I don't know. I mean, fun or love to people. I mean, I like
Mm,
I like uh, uh, mathematics and logical things, but I like more to speak about it with people with passion. So I yeah, I maybe I like people or making people fun or making people happy together.
Okay, so there is, yeah, if we talked earlier on about that little dance that you did on stage
Yeah.
in the Agile Alliance, that was definitely fun. It brought a lot of laughter, and it brought a lot of, well, people looking at
Mm,
it, and I do remember, I don't remember who was at my table, but I was sitting there, and people are like, okay, conferences can also be fun, and it's not just about pure
mm,
technical stuff learning, but it's also about fun. So that's yeah, that there's a lot of passion and a lot of
yeah,
fun there
thanks.
with people.
Yeah, my breakfast just came in.
Well,
Sorry.
that's wonderful. No, it's okay. It's we have to eat as well, so that's there's definitely that part as well.
Yeah,
But
and
I'm really, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, yes. At that time, I mean, when I met Angel first time, Japan, we still doing waterfall, and we are still
Mhm,
doing 60%. So
mhm,
what was happening, and what is happening is that business people just write specifications or requirements and
mhm,
place an order to people who build it. And after a year, they deliver the product and they check and they use it and they complain. Of course, yeah, we have not
Yeah, because
changed
it's
yet.
never, it's almost never is what we want, what we think that we've written out. It's 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 both sad and well, I think we see it in many parts of the world that somehow that idea still is there.
Mm,
Oh, we'll just write what we want, and if we don't get what we want, we need to write it better, or we complain about the
yeah.
other side instead of just making sure we talk much more and just stop waiting for a year.
Mm. And an interesting thing was that people in the both side wanted to do a good job. So they're actually thinking of, to do a better job, but they complain about the other side. So maybe something's wrong. So I wanted to change it. That was 2000 sometime, and I'm still struggling with passion.
Yeah, but for me, this is the interesting about Agile. We see it working, and but we still need to teach people. We still
Mm,
need to show people with passion that it works, and it's for a lot of people it's counterintuitive. It cannot work, and
mm.
yeah, it's
Right,
or it
right.
will waste a lot of time because then people have to talk much more. Why can't you just read what we've written or write better what we
Mm,
want? And it's but yeah, somehow it's more than 20 years now that we've seen that
right.
there are better ways, and still it's hard sometimes to convince.
Yeah, yeah. As you say, counterintuitive sometimes. We sometimes wanted to make it more precise and precise, or make thick and thick, and stop talking. It's just the other way around. So,
And that kind of brings me a little bit to that next question about, if you look back at all of this, these well, almost 20 years, what do you
mm.
consider your biggest achievement? Basically, what are you? This is your moment to brag. What you're proud of?
Oh, I'm proud of a making just made an agile studio in my hometown, Fukui Prefecture, and a lot of engineers there and clients there working together. Agile studio in my company, and a lot of people visit. I mean, nowadays all the visits is the online visit, so we use iPhone camera to look around our office, but sometimes we introduce clients into our web meeting. But still, we are in the COVID world. But I'm proud of I have made a Agile Studio Fukui, that's one thing about business. And the other thing is that this book, maybe you don't know, but this is the second edition of my book, Agile Development and Agile and Scrum. I co-wrote this book with the Ikujirō Nonaka professor, who wrote the new product development game in 1986, I believe, in Harvard Business Review, who inspired Jeff Sutherland to articulate current Scrum theory or practice or guide. And he is 86 now. Nonaka sensei.
Yeah, it's wonderful that you had that opportunity to work with him and to write that book. I heard about it, but as far as I know, this book has not been translated into English. Am I right? Or
right.
Is there?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I wrote the first edition in maybe 10 years ago, and I translated a lot of English book into Japanese, but I have not ever done my Japanese book to English yet.
Yeah, it's well, that's the one thing I wanted to ask, because I know you've been, well, for me, doing a lot of what I would call a community translation, in the sense that you look at books and with yourself, and I think with a couple of friends at least, you try to translate to make a lot more agile books known into the Japanese environment, or the agile community, I would say. I think that has definitely influenced a lot the agile community in Japan, because you brought them much more accessible literature, I would say. So
and
that's
I wrote this book with Nonaka sensei. I wrote this book with Professor Nonaka because he's so I met Professor Nonaka, and I found he is passionate too, very, very passionate. So the people who is 86 years old around the time, and also the mathematics teacher Gilbert Strang is 86 or that. So they're still passionate about their beliefs and education or communicating people. So I'm following them. I mean, I would like to do something.
It's a nice example. It's a nice example of people basically that age doesn't really matter at that level. When you're passionate, it's really much more. I want to jump into, because I know we have limited time. What is, I know a lot of people who are in the agile space, they have their personal things, the personal ways. So is there anything that you do yourself that you want to share that is helping you and that you think might help others?
Whiteboard. I mean, of course, the whiteboard is the best communication tool in the world. Still we have. So I usually have a whiteboard myself. I mean, smaller size whiteboard. And I walk around the office and I use my whiteboard. And also they have their whiteboard on the wall, but I have my whiteboard. Everywhere I need whiteboard.
So you carry a small whiteboard with you, and if you want to explain, you draw. That's actually a very nice
when I
way
go to party,
I
carry my whiteboard with me.
Wow, that's it's. I can recognize that. Yeah, I carry mostly of the time sticky, so Post-its with me, but that's very small to write, and indeed that's it's hard to erase or just change anything, which works much better on a whiteboard. So it's actually a good idea to work.
Yes, and notebook and pen is a good recording tool, but it's not a displaying thing. So whiteboard is just, you can memorize, took note of also, and display it to other people. So byway communication
Mhm.
whiteboard, not notebooks.
Right, right. Yeah, I like that. It's much more interactive. That's much more interactive. Okay, I want to jump into that next. Oh no, not this one yet. This one first. Next one, because you talk about working remote a lot. So, is there anything that you want to share about remote working that you learned over the years that really is helpful?
Express yourself. I mean, a lot of reactions, nodding, or oh, this is Kenji, or use your body, or not only language, but use a lot of gestures and whiteboard too, and speak with
To
a
use your whiteboard also remotely. So you write something on
right.
the whiteboard and
Yes,
then you
yes, yes,
show it.
yes.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I
we
like that.
usually use other digital tool to do that, but I still have whiteboard to show this. I mean, I think I have one of them around here, but I can't right now. But anyway,
Yeah, that's
analog
okay.
whiteboard, yeah, it's the best thing.
And I
Yeah.
like that you the gestures that you make, because indeed it's part of how we connect.
Mm,
Is that when we see gestures, when we see body language,
mm.
is this something that is used a lot in your culture? Because I don't know if
Uh,
body language. I assume that body language is, or I have the idea that body language is different in Japanese culture. Am I correct? Is that?
yes, correct. And I mean, Japanese people are sometimes still. They don't
Mm.
use much body language. We kind of shame to do that. But nowadays, a lot of people starting to understand that the only channel we have in the internet is this visual and voice, only two things. So we have to use visuals. A lot of people right now, I mean, in a web conference, they understand how to nod and how to upload in a visually.
Okay.
So
So and
they're getting used to it.
that's counterintuitive if I'm hearing it to your culture. So a lot of people have to
Mm.
learn it or have
Yeah.
learned it the last years. That's what I'm
Mm.
hearing.
Yes, yes.
That's interesting, because
We
it
are
shows
learning, I think.
also. Yes, it shows how our culture is changing also due to events like COVID, because of course then we're all
Mm.
forced to sit at home, and that it helps us for more remote work
Yes.
in different kind of
Uh,
moments. Huh? It's and
and
we don't always realize that.
and team building is getting difficult more and more. So we need some
Yes.
chat time, or not as only serious conversation, but with something about your family or pets or things like that. I mean, intentionally, we should do that. Just like 5 minutes after start, or with some time buffer to do that, and then we go into the real conversation of business. So, but before that,
Yeah,
we need some.
I had people in here as well that said that, well, in remote work, it's might be good to show up a few minutes before the meeting, and then indeed have
Mm,
that 5 minute or whatever, that that informal chat, and
right,
you
right,
see the
right.
difference in the teams that are doing that and the teams that are just showing up on time and just doing very efficient communication, but we miss a lot there if we don't
Right,
do
right.
that.
I agree. Yes.
Let's move, because we're limited in time. Let's move to that next question. What's a book you have read or a book that you want to talk about?
I'd like to talk about this book, Adopting
Mhm.
Agile Across Borders. I think
Wow.
it was published a year ago. Uh, Gloria Calfano, Gloria and David, who came to Japan to write this book. Actually, they traveled around through Asia to Africa to a lot of countries and wrote this book. This book is about culture difference and how to make cross-border teams. So great illustrations and a lot of interviews and stories on this book. So I just recommend. I mean, yeah, I also included some interview. There is a interview of me in this book. So,
But it's
very good
yeah,
book.
it's really important book for these days. Like we talked earlier, remote working, we tend to work a lot more across borders, and we don't always realize the cultures that we're having. It's one of the reasons why I'm interested in having
Right,
you on this show and having talk with a lot more different kind of people, because we and well, agile seems to be, in some, for some people it seems to be a western so Western Europe and an American thing, and for me it's yeah, I know that there's people in Africa. I've been talking to people in Pakistan. I've been talking to people
mm,
in Santiago, so it's really something around the world, and we don't always know enough about these cultures. And so that's definitely an interesting book. So I hadn't heard about it. I'm sure I will look it up and read it, because
yeah,
that's definitely something that is adopting agile across borders. Well, I will put it in the show notes as well, so that people can learn about it. So thank
yeah.
you very much for that.
If I can introduce the next interviewee, I would recommend Claudia. She's a very cheerful person. Yeah.
Well, that's indeed one of the questions that we'll have at the end. So, but before we go there, and I think that's the question we just had. Um, the one of the most interesting questions for me is, what is a question that you think that I should also ask you? So is there a question that I didn't ask you that you think, oh, you should have asked me? Is there anything you want to talk about?
What music do you like?
Hmm. Talking about cultures, tell me, Kenji, what music do you like?
uh, I like J-pop. I mean, Japanese pop music and K-pop,
Hmm.
which is a Korean. BTS is a worldwide famous right now. But so
Yeah.
K-pop, J-pop, and also I like jazz music a lot. I play the guitar sometimes, and playing jazz is so difficult but fun. I mean, it's all those improvisation, but some format in that. Like one verse together with the theme, and the second verse starting with piano, and then guitar, then bass or something, and drum, and solo parts. And then we get at last we get together to do the theme again, and then and, ending. Kind of a lose format, and sometimes in blues we have 12 bars blues format. So the thing is that I like musical instrument and music and jazz, because there is some format in that where we can play freely, exchange ideas in that moment. I mean, a piano said so, so I guitars say so. Return answer to that, or something like that. So question and answer together, or developing one theme together, or somebody asked an idea and then turn it around a different shape or something like that. So conversation is in jazz. So I like jazz music a lot. Listening to
I
jazz music.
like that. I like that, because indeed you make, and it's not a coincidence. I think that there's actually a lot of agilists who do play some kind of instrument,
Mm.
or multiple ones, like Henrik Nieberg, who, I don't
Yeah,
know, I think
Henrik.
he can
Yeah.
play everything. I think he can
Mm.
play everything, and it's there is some improvisation, there is some
Mm.
experimenting that happens inside
Right,
these
right.
things. But like you say, it's within some boundaries, and for me, that's also a lot what Agile does. We do a lot of we do a lot of experimenting, but we do it within some boundaries of a context that we're doing. And if we want to change, we make some agreements about what we're changing, and that's basically what you're saying as well. Oh, we play a 12 bar or 6 bar or whatever, so we have some agreement
Right.
on what we're doing. And like you say, one instrument starts to play a theme, and then the others respond to that, and that interaction, that's teamwork in a sense that is very interesting.
It's fun
Um,
too.
and it's fun. That definitely. Well, yeah, I have a friend who's a professional musician, and during COVID, because there was almost no gigs, he gave some trainings online for students who were at an official, how's it called? Yeah, an official music school, and his course was about playing together. And he got reprimanded by the school because one of the things he said to the students is, you can stand up because if you want to play, you can stand up, you have to feel your instrument. And the school was like, no, 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 no. The official rule is you have to sit down, you have to play the guitar like this. And it was like, but what's the fun in there? And so basically his students had a lot of fun playing, but the school didn't like that because it was not, how would I say it? It was not serious enough or something like that. And yeah, music should be about fun. If you don't
Right.
like what you're doing when you're playing music, what's the sense of it? I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
okay, I want to go to that next question that you alluded already a little bit about it, so that we can give you time for your breakfast as well. Who do you think I should ask next?
Gloria, who wrote this book. Gloria Califano. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but she came to Japan, and we took dinner together, and we went around Japanese Agile teams a lot, and she interviewed me and a lot of other companies. So she has this. She wanted to write this because she is interested in culture. And how they're doing in the different culture, how they do agile in different cultures. So a lot of interesting findings in this book. So I just recommend Gloria and David. I can ask
I would
them.
definitely. Well, definitely I will ask you an introduction after this, in some of the next days. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for doing that introduction. Just before we go, I want to ask you, if people want to reach out to you, what would be the best way to contact you?
Maybe Twitter is Hiranabe, is my last name, Hirabane.
That's the
Yeah,
one, huh?
that's the one. That's the one.
Yes. Okay. That's indeed the way I thought that it would be good for people to reach out to you. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been a wonderful conversation. And what does
Yes.
this sign mean?
It says fun, and
Mm.
sometimes we use this letter for music too. So fun. You see, this
Okay.
looks like people dancing.
Yeah,
So
that's
thank you.
what I was thinking. Is it now a letter, or is it you just drew yourself having fun?
Yeah.
That was also a possibility. And that's, yeah, I like the expression. Again, I have no way of reading anything Japanese, but I do like some of the Japanese symbols, because they're so expressive, much more expressive than it is in the Western, or yeah, alphabet is just boring basically, and it feels a lot less boring if I look at the Japanese
Yeah.
signals and signs. So it's
Yeah.
thank you
We have
very much for your time.
good. Thank you
Um,
very much.
it was very fun. It was nice to have a conversation so far away. I was really happy that you wanted to get up this early to have this conversation. And so thank you very much for having the time with me. And I hope that we can run into each other at sometimes
Yeah.
later when the whole COVID thing is over and we go back to conferences around the world. So
Yeah, I really
yeah.
think so too. Thank you very much for having me here. It was fun.
Okay, though. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching Who's Agile, where the stories of Agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other Agilists.